Welcome back to our final reflection. This is reflection 6. The article that I saved for last, I did so intentionally, and it is this article right here. This article is called, there I go, sorry. Inclusion, a matter of social justice. It's by Mara Sapon Shevin. This article really spoke to me. Out of all the articles we've read or I've covered in this journal reflection, this is the one that was most compelling to me. And I'll summarize it first, and then we'll go over why I feel this way. So unfortunately, I couldn't highlight on this one as I did with the others to try to draw our attention. But because it's in a PDF that's clearly an image, but I'd like to share, the summary first. So the article starts with a scenario about a 12-year-old boy, 6th grader in middle school, John, who they outline a scenario of him sort of in the lunchroom where basically nobody wants to sit with him. You know, everyone tells him to go away and shoves him aside, and then he goes up to, he realizes he forgot something at the caf and goes back up. And the third table that he went to where he left his lunch tray, he goes back to it and his tray is empty and his tray is gone. So, and then basically the article asks us, is there a problem here? Like, should John be removed from the school because nobody else wants him around? And right away, it gives the reader sort of this reaction. Obviously, no. We start sort of question that the author takes us through this kind of questioning of like, clearly the climate in the school is problematic. Something should be done to build a better community. Perhaps we'd start analyzing the race, the language, the sexual orientation, the gender, the ethnicity, if any of those things are in question. And then, bam, the article kind of hits us with this. Well, what would you say if you knew that John has Down syndrome? And it kind of tells us that, the school, because of this scenario, actually suggested that John be removed from the school and go to a specific special education school. So it kind of outlines this, like right away, we'll go into sort of the feelings about it. But the author kind of takes us through some of those feelings too, that, this is a true story that happened. And, when we talk about inclusion, why do we sort of sometimes forget about disabilities? Because being inclusive means you're being inclusive to everyone. So the article talks about true inclusion should include inclusive classrooms for children with special needs as well. And it goes out to outline 4 ways that four lessons or lessons that should be done in inclusive classrooms. And so 4 ways to do this. So the first one is challenging exclusion. So in this section, they sort of outline a extensive research project that was done, which teachers implemented some of the strategies in Plyer's book written in 1992. The book was called "We Can't Say You Can't Play With Us." So the teachers were basically asked to run with some of these activity strategies put out in the book. And a lot of these sort of bred to really meaningful and difficult conversations that, let's say, let's talk about what happened today during free play with Matthew. Wanted to join the girls in the housekeeping corner. Why did nobody want to let him in? So sort of things that, it kind of gets those conversations, questioning whether you have the right to choose whom you play with, or is it more important to keep other students from being sad? And the article outlines that that teachers were hesitant initially because they feared that this would actually make exclusion worse, but the results were the opposite. Excuse me. That and I actually I really like the quote that they ended with, that even imperfect attempts at challenging exclusion can communicate that the way we treat one another matters, and that doing so in the classroom is a priority worth our time and attention. I believe it's right at the end of here. So they show that, even if these conversations were kind of awkward and weren't well sort of laid out, that ultimately they still sort of made us challenge how we feel, how we treat others. The next step is dealing with teasing and bullying, and that lessons focused on that. Um, and for teasing and bullying, they and they mentioned that this topic is obviously bigger than just disabilities, but they use the book of called Chrysanthemum. And in this book, students are teasing a child whose name is Chrysanthemum. And it outlines that the teacher here, teacher one, did very little to stop the bullying. She basically told the kids to put their heads down and attempt to ignore the behavior, which surprisingly got worse. Non-surprisingly, sorry. And then the second teacher stopped the teasing, addressed both the victim and the bulliers, and did so in a productive, non-punitive way. So these are pretty important things, that it was a productive, thoughtful, productive, and non-punitive way. And so ultimately the goal of the lessons here dealing with teasing and bullying is that teachers should respond publicly to incidences of bullying and be explicit in their terms, like what you said is harassment on the basis of race, sexual orientation, physical appearance, and here in Blyton School, we treat students with respect. So it's not about punishing the students, it's about having a language that supports inclusive behavior, and not allowing bullying or teasing to occur. And even though teachers sort of sometimes feel like they're bound by the curriculum and they don't have time to have these important conversations, they have to get back to their schoolwork, curriculum work. The article sort of goes on to say, and again, here's a quote that I really liked. It goes on to say, creating students who can pass tests but who treat one another cruelly or indifferently is not a formula for successful schooling or a democratic society. So pretty interesting. So number 3 lessons were around trying other perspectives. They suggested a book for younger students, The Hey Little Ant, and also aspects for older students. And basically the whole point is to allow ourselves to be in the perspective of somebody else. We've talked about this in a lot of depth, or a sort of so a viewpoint I really agree with, that we should really, challenge ourselves to see it from the other side. And the last one is fostering courage and challenging oppression. So in fostering courage and challenging oppression, they listened to a song called Courage about a girl who witnessed exclusion of her classmate Diana. And in this one, the girl, connects what happened in Auschwitz in Japan, with like gas chambers and bombing, to the small acts of exclusion. And she wrote at the end of the song, she says this: I promise to do what I can to not let it happen again, to care for all women and men. I'll start by inviting Diana. So it shows us that we need to have courage to stand up, make sure that we challenge situations of oppression, and we come forward and stand up to them. And this, like when they read this story, a lot of students responded with their own incidences where they saw oppression, how they stood up, how they would have if they hadn't done so at that time. And it also addresses like sort of oppressive humor, that, that there's a lot of humor out there that does do oppressive behavior, and that we should challenge that as well. And actively, it ends by saying that we need to be active allies of social justice, and that includes people with disabilities. And in this one, I like the quote, "When one person is oppressed, no one is free. By embracing inclusion as a model of social justice, we can create a world fit for all of us." And I think that's true. We have to make sure that everyone is included in this picture. It's not just, we can't just pick and choose who should be included. We should, create an environment that's supportive for all. And by doing these lessons, it basically says that students started really considering the students in their class and their inclusive classroom, talking about wheelchair accessibility for a field trip, talking about dietary limitations for people of religion where they're going. So it creates this communal environment where everyone supports the other. So now, in terms of my personal feelings about this reading, like I said, this one was by far the most profound reading for me personally, because it kind of, it shocked me with the first question. I really went on that little ride the author wanted us to go on. I really felt those emotions where at first, when they said, should John be removed from the school, I was like, of course not, this is ridiculous. The school is not supporting him, somebody should step in. There's other things at play here, why John is being treated this way. And I did have that bam moment when the author sort of mentions he has Down syndrome, because it made me really question the fact that, like, what we do have, special quote unquote schools for special needs kids. I remember when I was in high school, we had a White House, which was literally a building separate from our school, where all the special needs kids were in, and we went there and we felt all proud of ourselves because we volunteered our hours and we felt like we were contributing, and really had this element of the other, as opposed to, it was an us and them versus just all of us together aspect. And it really made me challenge the fact that, like, I've never really put much attention to this aspect of social justice. I'm pretty aware of other issues like white privilege, sort of weight-related oppression, gender-related oppression, LGBTQ issues, race-related, religion-related. But for some reason, disability has kind of, although I know, able body and stuff like that, it has fallen off. It hasn't seemed to hold the same weight as it should in my brain. So I was really grateful for this article for sort of, bringing that to my attention, that I have been ignorant to my own biases about people with disabilities, and I've never really questioned the special needs schools, or questioned the fact that there's special needs classrooms, and even in my own practice when I've had kids with extreme disabilities, I found it hard to include them in the coursework or in the material I was teaching, and I never sort of took the time to really focus in on the benefits of the students in those classrooms, in our classrooms. And so I think it really challenged my own experiences. Although I have, a nephew who I love dearly who's severely autistic, I've never really considered, and he is in an inclusive classroom, but I've never really considered the benefits of him being in that classroom versus him not being in it. I've sort of only viewed it from the perspective of the teachers who are complaining about the challenges, and it makes me think of this scenario that we had during one of my placements, where a teacher didn't want to have a student with severe special needs on his volleyball team, and he was trying to find a way to cut him.